Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, join us at watchv103.com. Attorney Gerald Griggs, ATL's own, is in the building. Good morning, sir.
What's going on, guys? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Likewise, brother.
Let's get right to it.
Yeah.
Okay. What is there's lots of information. I mean, a lot of information floating around.
Mm-hmm.
What is the current update status? Where are we with the everything?
Well, currently, Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly has no bond, and he's going to be sitting in jail at least till September the 4th when his next status hearing happens. We're still trying to make direct contact with Joycelyn Savage. We've reached out to a representative of Joycelyn Savage, and we're waiting. So the family wants to reconnect with her. They love her. They want her to understand that they've always wanted to reach out to her, and they are happy what is happening in Chicago and what will happen in New York with regard to the charges that Mr. Kelly now faces.
Why? There are a lot of people who question what is going on. Like you saying, I don't know where my daughter is, but she's at the Trump Tower.
Yes.
Allegedly. She claims she's fine. That Robert may have said or may have not have said that they sold their daughter to him for money. It's all of this, what he say, she say. So, what the reality is that they haven't been able to speak to their daughter, or have they at least spoken to her?
They spoke to her one time for 30 seconds, and that was back in March. And with this he say, she say, it's not a he say, she say. It's Robert versus the federal government. 2 indictments. 13 counts in one, 10 counts in another, 195 years he's facing. It's outlined the level of coercion and intimidation that has been used allegedly at this point, but it's in the indictment. So if you read the Chicago indictment, if you read the New York indictment, the federal indictments, you will understand exactly what's going on here. So I'm not concerned about what Mr. Kelly is saying. I'm concerned about getting a message directly to Joycelyn Savage, the truth, what her family has said from the beginning since August the 4th of 2017. They want direct contact with her. No middle people, no R. Kelly's team. We want to get the truth directly to her, and that's her family, her parents, her sisters, her grandparents, her uncles, her aunts, all want to have communication with her.
So before you jump in, Jay, she hasn't spoken to any of those people.
No.
At all.
That's
Not
insane.
only for 30 seconds at my office after we had a press conference requesting direct contact. And that was a 30-second phone call where she paused after she heard from her younger sister, and she hung up.
Wow.
Ooh. Is there further concern? You saying Kelly's going to be locked up until September. We hearing about them staying up in a condo in Trump Tower in Chicago, and that they may or may not be running out of money, or they may have nowhere to live. Is there increased concern now that he's away for a couple of months?
There's always been increased concern because of the nature of the allegations and the things we've already investigated, and now the federal government has investigated. But what we want them to understand is her family is here. They're ready, willing, and able. They tried a wellness check just last week at the Trump Tower. We can't get contact directly to Joycelyn Savage, so we are trying everything we know how, from, of course, the media to reaching out directly to Mr. Kelly's representatives, now their representatives, and using the federal government as well.
Well, Joycelyn is an adult at this point. What if she doesn't want to talk?
Well, then she can say that. She can say that directly to her parents on the phone.
Right.
She can call her sisters, because if she doesn't want contact with her parents, that's one thing. She didn't, allegedly, if we're to believe what we're being told, she didn't want contact with any member of her family, and no member of her family has done anything to her.
I heard that there were between Joycelyn and the other young lady, that there's some sort of suicide pact, that if something happens to R. Kelly, that they would potentially kill themselves. Is there any truth to that?
Well, we're not going to get into rumors or hearsay. We don't know anything about a suicide pact. What we know about is that for almost 3 years, she has not had direct communication with her family, and we want direct communication. And so it would be in Mr. Kelly's best interest at this point, and his members of his team, to put her in direct contact with her parents, with her family.
You talk about a wellness check.
Yes.
But, we turn on the television and they're sitting there on TMZ. So
Right.
What is the wellness check saying? That they're not there? It's kind of counter to what we see when they're in a room on television.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, how many of you guys check on your children by watching a video of your children?
That's true.
You want to have direct contact. You want to talk to them. You want to make sure they're okay. We want to do this separate and apart from the media, but every time we reach out, we get a scripted video.
Right. And there's no way to tell if it's not being, coerced by him. Exactly.
We don't know when that video was filmed. There's no date stamp, anything on that video.
True.
So my issue is it's very easy to pick up a telephone and call your parents. Their number has not changed. Her number has changed. We don't even know if she has a cell phone.
Wow.
And what I would say about that video is, for the most part, it's Miss Clary speaking. We want a direct line of communication with Joycelyn Savage, between the Savages and Joycelyn Savage. No intermediaries.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, first of all, reset, Gerald Griggs, attorney for the Savage family, Joycelyn Savage and Azriel Clary, R. Kelly's living girlfriends, if you will, or members of his sex cult, depending on who you ask.
Right.
Posted a video after they were claimed they had been kicked out of the Trump Hotel. They have not spoken. Well, Azriel's spoken to her family, apparently.
I'm not sure. I don't speak for the Clarys.
Joycelyn Savage's family spoke for 30 seconds in the office back in March, but haven't heard from it since. It seems like a FaceTime, and these times, so many different ways to get in touch. WhatsApp, you can, Skype if you still Skype.
Right.
There's so many ways for me to just be like, hey, I'm good, fall back, leave me alone. And you saying you just can't even get that.
You can't even break through any of that. We've reached out to numerous managers of Mr. Kelly. We reached out to numerous lawyers of Mr. Kelly. We've now reached out to a lawyer who alleges to be the lawyer for Joycelyn Savage. We are trying to make direct contact, and we have been prevented. We will not stop, because this is their child. Whether she's an adult or not, that's your child. Just because somebody turns 21, you don't cut off all communication with your child. And so with the charges now, many people are saying, well, if all this is going on, where are the charges? There are charges, federal charges and state charges. With the charges now, they're even more concerned, and they want contact with their child.
Much has been said, much has been alleged, much has been accused, and now there are indictments. He's being held without bond until September 4th to his next hearing. I asked you before we went to the break, why hasn't Mr. Savage, we talked about, let your child go at 21 and just stop communicating or cut the cord completely. Why hasn't he just pulled up? If they're allegedly at the Trump Tower, or they're fine, they just sent the video. And again, you said you don't know when the date is. I'd be outside.
And they were outside last week. They were outside the Trump Tower last week trying to get into the Trump Tower. Of course, they have security. And another thing people need to understand is several members of Mr. Kelly's camp have directly threatened the lives of Tim Savage, one of which is indicted in Henry County and will be facing felony charges. So there are some serious threats that are going on behind the scenes. And so, in an abundance of caution, that's why they've retained an attorney, and that's why we're trying to do this the legal way. But I do understand a lot of listeners out there, if it was my daughter, blah, 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 and blue, blue, blue. I'm trying to make sure my client stays out of custody,
right,
and that we do this the right way. But they have gone to Trump Tower to try to make direct contact, to answer your question.
So outside of trying to get Joycelyn back, their daughter, are they looking for anything else from R. Kelly? Are they trying to get money out of it, or just solely getting their daughter out of the Trump Tower?
Absolutely not. They have never requested money, nor received money, nor inquired about money. I actually asked Mr. Darrell Johnson to produce receipts, or Mr. Kelly to produce receipts, because I hear the rumors out there, this is a money grab, all they want is money. Show us the money. Because last I checked, his own lawyer said he has no money anyway. So this has never been about money. This was about getting their daughter back. And they have gone to great lengths from 2017 to now to achieve that goal.
Wow. Is there anything different that y'all are going to try to do to get in contact with her? Because it just seems like a loop that's rolling. Yeah.
We're going to continue to cooperate with federal authorities. We're going to hopefully get the federal authorities involved to make direct contact, and we're going to continue to request a meeting through her alleged representatives until we get that meeting. But with regard to Mr. Kelly and his charges, I think it would be in his best interest to facilitate this meeting.
So we're talking to Attorney Gerald Griggs, representing the Savage family, their daughter, as well as another young lady, Azriel, or R. Kelly's alleged living girlfriends or members of a sex cult. If convicted, he goes to jail for however long. Let's say it plays out that way. And Joycelyn still doesn't want what does where do you go from that? What happens then?
That's a conversation we've had, and I think that her parents would have a decision to make. But again, they're never going to stop loving their daughter. Then the door is always going to be open. If you saw my client's Instagram last night, it was heartfelt that she loves her daughter despite anything that has allegedly been said, and she wants contact, and she will never stop loving her daughter, and her arms will always be open. And so that's what drives them, and that's what continues to drive me, is the love a family has for their child. So, sometimes children decide to do things that are not in their best interest, and it's your job as a parent to always be there, regardless, for when they do come back, because they do come back. And so we're going to continue to be here, continue to have the door open, continue to advocate on her behalf, and hopefully one day she will return home. I'm hopeful. They're hopeful.
So I was going to say that would be a worst case scenario. He went away and then she still wanted no contact.
Yes.
What's a win-win situation?
A win situation is, her coming home and justice being secured for all of the victims and all the other families, because we have to remember, as the prosecutor said, these were middle school girls, numerous middle school girls that he video recorded having sexual contact with, that he groomed allegedly, and that his enablers provided him contact with, in 2 indictments, one in New York, which is racketeering, and of course child sex trafficking, and the other one in Illinois is obstruction for the previous trial and child pornography. We're looking at 195 years.
Wow.
So this is not just rumors and he say, she say. This has been investigated not only by my office and other attorneys' offices, but now the federal government.
You mentioned the enablers.
Yes.
And I think I read somewhere that just now,
yes, some
of the enablers are now being sought out to be prosecuted and things of that nature. Why did that take so long?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. My hope was prosecutors would have gotten involved a long time ago, but it took other lawyers working outside of the normal course of prosecution to bring this to light. And so now Milton June Brown has been indicted and Mr. McDavid has been indicted, and we expect more to be indicted because Mr. Kelly allegedly didn't do this by himself, as the indictment shows. So my hope is more people will be brought to justice because of these activities over the last 25 years.
Wow. I mean, I'm just blown away, really.
Yeah, it's a very difficult case. It's one of the most difficult cases I've ever been involved with. It's taken so many different turns and twists. We're thankful for all the support, and for the people who don't support, just keep reading, keep watching, keep watch the trial. You'll see the truth come out, and it won't be what Mr. Darrell Johnson's saying, what Mr. Greenberg's saying, and it definitely won't be what Mr. Kelly is saying, because we all saw in that Gayle King interview something that was shocking and appalling. And the allegation that my client sold their daughter to him is absolutely false. It will be proven in a court of law, and Mr. Kelly will be spending a substantial amount of time in prison.
Amen.
Wow.
Attorney Gerald Griggs, ladies and gentlemen, tell them how to stay in touch with everything with the Savage family and yourself. How can they keep tab? I mean, there's a news cycle, but if they want to really be in touch,
you can, follow me on all social media at Attorney Griggs, ATTORNEY GRIGGS, or the website www.geraldagriggs.com. Of course, you can follow all of my clients on their social media, Mom Fights to Save Daughter, and Tim Savage. On all social media, but this is about bringing their daughter home. This was never about fame. It was never about fortune, never about money. It was about justice. As you can see, for the last 2.5 years, they've been resolute in using all channels available to them to get a message directly to Joycelyn Savage. And if Joycelyn can hear this message, get in touch with your parents. It's imperative you get in touch with your parents.
Thank you, Gerald Griggs.